Whenever you're making a recipe, you're using proportions. This first example was inspired by a former student who had his own food truck, and when he would make barbecue sauce, he would just mix ketchup and Coke together as the base ingredients. So let's say we look up a recipe online and it calls for every 2 cups of ketchup, use a half a cup of Coke and mix those. Of course, there would be other ingredients there, but let's say we're just using those and we want to make a bigger batch of this. We want to use all the ketchup we have, which is 6 cups. Then how much Coke should we add to keep these proportions in balance with each other? To do a proportion, you'll use this setup, and it's going to look like a TIE fighter. You're going to stack numbers on the left, numbers on the right, and then it's going to be like heavy on the wings, light in the middle, so it kind of looks like a TIE fighter. You'll use the 2 things given immediately on the left side. And this allows us to know what units go where. If we decide to put ketchup up top and Coke in the bottom, then ketchup's also going to be up top on the other side as well, so that's where we could put the 6 cups there. And then we want to find out how many cups of Coke, so we'll leave that blank. From here, you'll always multiply the numbers diagonal from each other, and then you're going to divide by what's left over. So that'll be 6 times 0.5 divided by 2, and that will give us how many cups of Coke we should add, 1.5. So that's it. That is our missing value. And that'll keep these in balance and proportional and, zesty, tangy, all those things. But you might have noticed another pattern here. Like, how do you go from the left side to the right side? You might have seen, well, you just multiply by 3. That is another way to solve this. So that's totally a valid way to do it as well. 0.5 times 3 would be another way to get the 1.5. The diagonal method will work every time though. So if you don't see this, then that other way is a good fallback. You've been watching a lot of great British Bakeoff. You've been inspired by Mr. Paul Hollywood, Prue, the whole crew. It's underbaked, and you want to make a recipe. Feel free to pause and try this one out. A recipe calls for 2-to-3 ratio of water to flour. The water is the first number, the flour is the second number. If you have 68 grams of flour, how much water do you need? You know what to do. Set up your TIE fighter. The 2/3 will stack that. That's water to flour. And where does the 68 grams of flour go? If you were thinking the bottom, excellent. And then you're going to multiply diagonal, divide by what's left over. 2 times 68 divided by 3. And that'll give us 45.3 repeating. This one's going to keep going beyond that, so it's going to be 333 forever. But that's fine. We're pretty much done, and that is how many grams of water we need to keep these proportional. Another way to state that, though, is 45 1/3. This is where knowing decimals can be helpful. If it's 0.333, then that'll be 1/3. If it's point and you double that, it would be 0.666. That would be 2/3. Or if you triple that, that would be 0.9999, and that would essentially become 1 or 3/3. So knowledge of decimal conversions will definitely help with these ones here. In the last example, you've gotten into making model airplanes over the last year, and there's a heavy aeronautical theme in this video, I'm realizing. But you look up the specs of this jet, and you want to recreate a model of it. Let's say that this length here is 15 feet, this length here is 10 feet, and in your little model, it's only going to be 4 inches where that 10 feet was. So what should take the place of that 15 feet here? Just as a side note, planes hold their fuel in the wings, and it apparently also helps with the lift during takeoff to help them. So anyway, how long should the top of the model wing be if you want these to be proportional? Feel free to pause and just try this one on your own. And then we're going to set up the TIE fighter. The left side will stack what we know, the 15 feet and the 10 feet, and then we'll label them. We'll call it the top and the bottom, for instance. Then it makes it easier to identify where to put the 4 inches. That has to be in the bottom, because if this one's on the bottom, then that one also has to be on the bottom. And we're going to multiply across, divide, 4 times 15 divided by 10, and that'll give us 6 inches. So that is the missing value for the wing that we're creating here. So go forward with confidence in your model making, your baking, all the things that you're going to use proportions for.